Hello and welcome to Mrs. Houck's math class for 6th grade. You remember we finished off with looking at lesson 5 in module 6.3. We are on page S18 on the bottom right corner. I tried to make this a little bit bigger so we can follow along a little bit. We're actually going to look at the problem set together today. Make sure you write everything down because some of this might be on a little quiz that I'm going to give to you on Friday. Number 1 says, read each description carefully and write an equation that represents the description. Okay, an equation is something that has an equal sign. We have an equal sign, and then we have something on both sides. Obviously, these two sides must equal. This says the opposite of -7. Well, I made a little number line right here for us, and I said, okay, here's -7. What's the opposite of -7? Well, the opposite of -7 is +7. So for our equation, we're going to find the original number, which is -7. We want to know what the opposite is, so we're going to represent opposite with a negative. Now it looks kind of funny with a negative and a negative, so we're going to put some parentheses like this. And you guys just found out that the opposite of -7 equals +7. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. The next one says the opposite of 25. So we have two opposites, and we have 25. So our original number here is 25, so we're going to put 25 in parentheses. And then we notice we have the opposite of 25. So we're going to need two opposites. There's one. We're going to put some parentheses here and here to kind of keep it a little bit clean. And then there's one more. So we have here the opposite of 25 equals what? So I like to make a number line. There's my little number line. My original number is 25. And I'm saying the opposite is -25, of the opposite. So I got to do opposite one more time. And I'm back to 25. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next one says the opposite of 15. All right, my original number is 15. I'm going to put it in parentheses. I want to know what the opposite of 15 equals. Well, I'm going to make a simple little number line here. I have 0, positive 15 is on the right, negative 15 is on the left. The opposite of 15, here's 15. What's the opposite? The opposite is -15. Okay, last one. The opposite of -36. Well, my number here is -36. -36. I want to know what the opposite of that is. The opposite. I'm going to keep the parentheses around my original number. What is the opposite of -36? Well, if I would make a little number line right here, 0, positive 36 would be on the right, negative 36 would be on the left. My original number is -36. The opposite would be positive 36. Okay, if you need to pause the video in order for you to catch up, please do so. Okay, so we're going to now look at problem number 2 here. Problem number 2. See if we can kind of block some of this off so we can focus a little bit better. Here we go. Problem number 2 says, Jose graphed the opposite of 3 on the number line. First, he graphed point P on the number line, 3 units to the right of 0. All right. 3 units to the right of 0 is P. Okay, works. Next, he graphed the opposite of P on the number line, 3 units to the left of 0, and labeled it K. All right, so the opposite of 3 would be 1, 2, 3. Oh, so he's good so far. Then it says, finally, he graphed the opposite of K, here's K, and labeled it Q. So the opposite, let's see, K is 1, 2, 3 places from 0. In order to find the opposite, we have to go 1, 2, 3, and it's going to be right back here. So he did. Here is 3. This was a 3. The opposite of 3 is -3, and the opposite of -3 is right back to 3. All right, well, let's see if we can answer these questions. Is this diagram correct? We're going to just write here, yes, it is. If the diagram is not correct, explain. Well, it's correct, so we're good. Let's go down here. We're going to write the relationship between the points, P and K. Here's P, here's K, and here's 0. P and K are what we would call opposites. Opposites. I'm going to capitalize it so we can make sure we remember it. Well, then what's Q and K and Q? Well, K is here and Q, well, it's the same spot. So those are opposites as well. Opposites. Good job. Very, very nice. Now let's look at the last one. The last one says, well, then what's P and Q? Well, P and Q they're the same. So we'll just write the word same. Very nice. Okay, once you are finished, like I said, go ahead and we're going to move on to the next one. But if you need to pause, please do so. Okay, so I paused my video and kind of moved some things up so that we can move down here to problem number 3. Problem number 3. Let's see if we can adjust this just a little bit here. See if it'll stay there for me. All right, problem number 3. Read each real-world description. Write the integer. Okay, what does integer mean? What does integer mean? Aha! Integer means I have to write the number. The number. Write the integer that represents the opposite of the opposite. Oh, we have 2 of these, so that means we're going to have to kind of go from one direction to the next. Show your work to support your answer. Okay, well, let's go ahead and try this. Write the integer that represents the opposite of the opposite. So this answer here, I need to know what's the opposite of the opposite of a temperature rise of 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Rise means positive, so I'm going to have a positive number. So my positive number, and then I have opposite and an opposite. How could I solve that? Well, I could always make a little number line right here. I could put 15 over here and -15 here, and I'm going to start at 15. I'm going to go the opposite, and I'm going to do the opposite one more time, and I'm back to 15. Some of you are starting to realize if you have 2 opposites here, I'm going to be at my original number. Okay, let's try the next one. Remember, we have to write the integer that represents the opposite of the opposite. So B, I'm going to need an opposite of the opposite. We need 2 opposites. A gain of 55 yards. Gain. Gain is a positive number. So I have a positive number. Same kind of thing. I had a positive number, and I'm going to do 2 opposites. So if this was 55, we'll pretend, and I did the opposite to negative, and then back to positive, I have the original number of 55. So if I have 2 opposites, I get my original number. All right, well, let's try this one. Once again, don't forget we need opposite of the opposite. So we need the opposite of the opposite of a loss of 10 pounds. Loss would be negative, so I have a -10. -10. What is the opposite of -10? +10. What's the opposite of +10? -10. So I'm back to my original number. All right, why don't you go ahead and see if you can write the last one for me, D, and then check this. Okay, so see if you can do the last one. A withdrawal of $2,000. Sean, what would you write for this one? Okay, you have to do the opposite of the opposite. Opposite of the opposite. And then you have a withdrawal of 2,000. Withdrawal. Sean, is that a positive or a negative word? You are correct. That's a negative word. So we have negative $2,000. We'll put it in parentheses. Now we have to know what the opposite of negative 2,000 is. Okay, so if I'm having a hard time, I might just come over here and make a little number line to help me out. Positive 2,000 goes on the right, and negative 2,000 goes on the left. My original number is negative 2,000, and I'm going to go to the opposite of it. Well, the opposite would be positive, but now I have to go to the opposite one more time, so I'm back to negative 2,000. Okay, hopefully you're understanding kind of why we're doing all this together. All right, we have one last problem to do for today. And remember, it's very important that you're writing these things down because I think I might have a little quiz on Friday for you to fill in. Okay, problem number 4. Problem number 4 says, write the integer that represents the statement. Locate and label each point on the number line. What I would like for you to do first is I would like for you to pause my video. Then I want you to find the center line, and I want you to label it 0. I want you to count by ones going this way and by ones going to the left. And let's see what you come up with. Go ahead and pause your video, please, so you can fill it in. All right, here we go. Let's see if you numbered kind of like I did. Now, if you notice, I counted by ones. Doesn't look like I counted by ones, but I actually did. I skip counted. So, for example, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just skipped and have here 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm still counting. My scale is still ones, but I decided to skip lines because I write so big and it was hard for me to write so tiny. Okay, so we need to have our number line numbered. We have our scale on here. Now we are going to write the integer that represents the statement. So let's read the statement here. The opposite of a gain of 6. Well, a gain of 6 would be positive. The opposite of positive 6 would be negative 6. So let's go find negative 6 here on a number line. Start at 0. Find negative 6. Plot a point, and we're going to label it letter A. All right, let's go to B. The opposite of a deposit of $10. Okay, remember, a deposit of $10. If I deposit money into my account, that's a positive 10. However, it says the opposite of that. What would be the opposite of positive 10? Would be negative 10. So let's start here at 0. Go back here till we get to negative 10. And we're going to label it B. Okay, see if you can figure out where C, D, and E go, and then check to see if you did it correctly. Some of you might need to pause your video. All right, let's check this out. Here we have the opposite. That's an opposite of the opposite of the opposite of 0. Well, here's 0. The opposite of 0 is 0, and the opposite, so it just has to be 0. We're going to label that C. D, the opposite of the opposite of 4. Once again, we have the opposite of the opposite of 4. So I could always look at my number line as well. Here's 4. The opposite of 4 would be negative 4. And the opposite of that would be positive 4. So we're going to put over here, this is going to be positive 4, and we're going to label that D. And the last one, the opposite of the opposite. So we have here opposite of the opposite of a loss of 5. Loss is a negative word, So that means our original number is a -5. So we have to start at -5, and we need to go opposite and opposite 2 times. So let's find -5. Here's my -5. It's here between 6 and 4. The opposite of -5 would be +5. And then the opposite of that would be back to -5. So we'll put a dot right there, and we will label that E. Okay, once you have finished filling this in, keep it handy for Friday. You will have a little assessment on Friday, and you may use your book to help you. Okay? Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.